And now, aviation weather around Alaska. Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on this Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. And we've had a pretty significant snowfall impact areas of south central and southeastern mainland Alaska, inland from the Gulf. Anywhere from 6 to 11 inches of snow has fallen in the Anchorage area, west side of Anchorage, getting upwards of 11 inches of snow measured at the Weather Service office there, up on the south side of Ted Stevens International Airport. We have snow that will continue, winter weather advisories through this Tuesday afternoon, night, early Wednesday morning along the Alaska Range and into the southeast interior of the Copper River Basin, St. Elias Mountains. Several inches of snow there. IFR conditions persisting Wednesday morning. In the short term, as of this Tuesday late morning, we still have high wind warnings in effect until this Tuesday evening for areas around Sitka, Prince of Wales Island, as well as down here along the east side of the Alaska Peninsula. Chiknik on southward here, and Kodiak Island, high wind warnings because we have an area of low pressure as of Tuesday late morning sitting here over the northwestern Gulf. That feature is going to head southeastward so that later Wednesday into Thursday, that low will head southeast back toward the North Pacific. That'll allow conditions to improve here, especially across south central areas that receive the snowfall. Farther north, lower cloud cover, visibilities, IFR conditions along the Beaufort Sea coastline. And then there's another area of low pressure that'll be up here into the western portion of the Bering with a front arcing ahead of it. A band of IFR conditions, breezier conditions along with precipitation in the form of some rain and snow that'll be pushing eastward up toward the southwest coast as we get into the day Wednesday afternoon. But conditions, as I said, as of this Tuesday afternoon and evening will be improving here across the Mat-Su, Kenai, and Anchorage areas. Still lingering IFR conditions Wednesday afternoon along the Alcan border, Yukon Flats between the Alaska Range and Brooks Range. Improving conditions, Copper River Basin to MVFR, and again, that front along the southwest coast. We do expect IFR, lower ceilings, visibilities, and precipitation, and some gusty winds. Thursday morning, that front will be pushing eastward and start to see some secondary development, a weaker low, not a strong low, but that feature is going to be working its way eastward across the Gulf here for the end of the week. And if that's not enough, there's going to be another low come up out of the North Pacific, stay south of the eastern Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula here for the end of the week, beginning of the weekend. So conditions should improve across the Panhandle as well by Thursday morning. But as I said, as that front, what's left of it works its way eastward inland, secondary low development, we could see some additional light snow in portions of south central as we go through Thursday night, early Friday morning. And that front will gradually begin to weaken. But again, IFR conditions, lower ceilings will accompany that system along with some areas of mainly light precipitation, some of that in the form of snow. Anatuvik Pass, we're looking at VFR conditions for Wednesday. A little east, Adigan Pass, VFR becoming MVFR by afternoon. The Alaska Range should largely be VFR on Wednesday. Lake Clark, Merrill rounding up through rainy and windy passes. As we get east, though, because there's still going to be snow, lower ceilings and visibilities there across the Copper River Basin, especially eastern half of the Alaska Range. As of this Tuesday afternoon, evening, and night, conditions should gradually improve as you head east. IFR, though, Wednesday morning until that lower cloud cover and things and snow diminish and pull east. VFR, though, by afternoon. Mentasta Pass, IFR becoming VFR. The south entrance, over the Copper River Basin, we'll see lingering. IFR going to MVFR on Wednesday afternoon, and then Tanita Pass, MVFR conditions becoming VFR, so improving from west to east across the Copper River Basin. For Portage Pass, generally VFR conditions expected Wednesday. And in the northern Panhandle, Chilkoot and White start with IFR with improving conditions to VFR in the afternoon. So looking at the freezing levels, surface freezing line, much of the mainland has temperatures at or below freezing on Wednesday morning. For the weather systems, we have the one low that's heading southeastward here through the eastern Gulf into the North Pacific. Little bump in the freezing levels aloft, a little over 4,000, maybe near 5,000 feet. But here's the low out here in the western Bering, the frontal system. So along and ahead of that front, we find the warmer air that advances ahead of the front. So freezing levels aloft bump upwards 4, 6, 8,000 feet, lower Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians to 10,000 feet there down in the North Pacific. The greatest threat for icing, lingering areas of precipitation, lower cloud cover. Above 3,000 feet here along areas along the Alcan border down into the northeastern Gulf. Above 6,000 feet here, especially the intercoastal mountains of the Panhandle. And then back to the west, where I showed you that warmer air aloft above 10,000 feet. We find icing, moderate icing potential there over the Alaska Peninsula. Above 6,000 feet along the southwest coast, Nunavik Island, Kuskokwim Bay, and then further north, where the air is a bit colder, above 4,000 feet in any of the precipitation-bearing clouds, and then back to the west, to the southwest of the low center, generally above 4,000 feet icing potential there out over the central and southwest Bering. Looking at winds at 30,000 feet, we do have a core of winds of 115 to 130 knots exiting here the Gulf down into the North Pacific. General troughiness, northeastern mainland, and then behind me a broader trough. We can clearly see the low circulation at 30,000 feet of that system over the western Bering with a jet core in excess of 150 to 170 knots south-southwest of the Aleutian chain as we bring it down to 9,000 feet, the 700 millibar level roughly. There's the low circulation on Wednesday with that low heading southeastward. More importantly, again, note how broad this circulation is. It covers the Bering Sea and the Aleutians down into the North Pacific. We have winds aloft mid-levels 50 to 60 knots, lower Bering into the central Aleutians. And then as we bring this down further to 3,000 feet, this is like the third system of this broad of a circulation, so very influential. It just doesn't have quite the wind field that a couple of the earlier storms did here over the past couple of weeks, but still, here comes that frontal system at 3,000 feet along the west coast. We have winds anywhere from 45 to 60 knots up here toward the Gulf of Anadyr. We have a broad belt of winds over 50 knots across the central western Aleutians. So as that front works its way eastward, there will be turbulence. Along areas of the northeastern Gulf, especially outer coast of the Panhandle, the turbulence, moderate turbulence, surface to 6,000 feet would mainly be in the morning. That weather system is heading southeastward away from Alaska, but back to the west. That front's coming onshore into areas of the southwest coast, so we expect moderate turbulence along there, surface to 3,000 feet up there around the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, surface to 4,000 feet here, lower Yukon, Kuskokwim Bay areas, and then as we trail out along the Aleutians, we expect areas of moderate turbulence, surface to 4,000 feet. So again, this active weather pattern will continue as we head into November. It's just going to be one after another. Low pressures coming up out of the North Pacific and either moving up toward the Gulf or crossing up through the Bering before impacting the western southern areas of the state, and along the Gulf Coast will be the areas most impacted here over the next couple of weeks.